In Sverdlovsk, a city sparkling with frost and ambition at the Ural Mountains' heart, 1959 begins with a familiar hum of youthful energy. Inside the bustling Ural Polytechnic Institute, a group of 9 seasoned hikers, led by the charismatic Igor Dyatlov, coalesce with a shared dream: to conquer the formidable peaks of the northern Urals. Igor Dyatlov, a fifth-year radio engineering student, projects a quiet confidence, honed by countless expeditions, his leadership a beacon for his peers. His carefully selected team blends seasoned adventurers and eager newcomers, all united by a passion for the wild and an unyielding spirit of exploration. Dyatlov's core group comprises students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, a testament to the institution's strong tradition of outdoor pursuits. Georgy Krivonishenko, a 23-year-old radio engineering student, brings a jovial spirit and a knack for practical skills. His close friend, Yuri Doroshenko, also 23 and studying radio engineering, possesses a robust physique and an unwavering resolve. Lyudmila Dubinina, a 20-year-old economics student, is known for her resilience and her meticulous record-keeping. Zinaida Kolmogorova, 22, a radio engineering student, is a strong, independent woman, an experienced hiker who has previously led her own expeditions. Rustam Slobodin, 23, a graduate of the institute and now an engineer, offers a calm demeanor and a wealth of practical knowledge. Nikolai Thyboksberg-Knowles, 23, a civil engineering student, is known for his quiet strength and his steady presence. Alexander Kolvatov, 24, a student at the institute, brings a thoughtful, observant nature to the group. The final 2 members, both older and with more extensive experience, add a crucial layer of depth to the expedition. Semyon Zolotaryov, 37, a Komsomol instructor and a military veteran, is a late addition. His presence initially sparks mild tension due to his age and slightly more formal demeanor compared to the younger students. Yet, his extensive experience and survival skills are undeniable assets. Yuri Yudin, 21, a student at the institute, rounds out the party, his youthful enthusiasm infectious. This carefully curated group, brimming with anticipation, begins its meticulous preparations in the final days of January 1959. The expedition's objective is ambitious: a Category 3 hike, the most challenging classification, through the remote and often unforgiving northern Urals, culminating in an ascent of Mount Otorn, a peak known for its challenging terrain and unpredictable weather. This journey, if successful, would earn the participants a higher sports category, a coveted achievement within the Soviet Union's robust outdoor sports system. The planning is exhaustive, reflecting Dyatlov's meticulous nature. Equipment is gathered and checked: skis, heavy winter clothing, tents, sleeping bags, cooking utensils, and a significant supply of food. The route is meticulously charted, drawing on maps and previous expeditions, reports. Dyatlov keeps a detailed journal, a practice common among experienced hikers, documenting the group's progress, observations, and daily life. This journal, along with photographs taken by various members, will later become crucial, albeit fragmented, pieces of a perplexing puzzle. On January 23, 1959, the group assembles in Sverdlovsk, their spirits high. The air crackles with excitement and the quiet hum of last-minute preparations. Final checks are made, goodbyes exchanged with family and friends, promises made to return with tales of their adventure. The city itself, still in the grip of winter, offers a stark contrast to the wild beauty they seek. The journey truly begins on January 25, 1959, when the entire group boards a train from Sverdlovsk, heading north towards Serov, a town situated on the edge of the vast, forested wilderness. The train journey is long, a time for camaraderie, shared laughter, and the quiet contemplation of the challenges ahead. The landscape outside the windows gradually transforms from urban sprawl to endless taiga, a silent, imposing wilderness stretching to the horizon. From Serov, they continue their travel by truck to Ivdel, a small logging town that serves as a gateway to the northern reaches of the Sverdlovsk region. The roads are rough, often snow-covered, and the journey is slow, but the group's enthusiasm remains undimmed. They spend the night in Ivdel, making final arrangements and perhaps enjoying one last taste of civilization before venturing deeper into the wild. On January 26, 1959, they take another truck, this time to Vizhay, the last inhabited settlement on their route. Vizhay, a small village populated primarily by Mansi people and a few Russian settlers, marks the true beginning of their wilderness trek. Here, the last vestiges of modern life fade, replaced by the stark beauty and isolation of the taiga. The group stays overnight, preparing for the arduous journey that lies ahead. The morning of January 27, 1959, dawns crisp and cold. The group's journey begins in earnest as they board a truck for the final leg of their motorized transport, traveling to the 41st Kvartal, a small logging settlement. This settlement, a collection of wooden barracks and a few cabins, represents the absolute frontier of their journey. Here, the road ends, and the vast, snow-covered expanse of the northern Urals truly begins. It is at the 41st Kvartal that the group faces an unexpected but ultimately significant setback. Yuri Yudin, plagued by severe sciatica and a minor heart condition, makes the difficult decision to turn back. The pain is too intense, the prospect of continuing too daunting. Dyatlov, ever the responsible leader, ensures Yudin's safe return, understanding the necessity of prioritizing the health and safety of his team. Yudin's departure reduces the hiking party to 9 members, a detail that will later become a poignant footnote in the unfolding tragedy. His farewells are tinged with a mixture of disappointment and relief, unaware of the profound implications of his decision. With Yuri Yudin having departed, the remaining 9 hikers, now fully self-reliant, embark on their skis on January 28, 1959. The initial stages of their trek lead them along the Lozva River, a relatively flat and manageable path. The weather, though cold, is clear, and the vast, snow-laden forests offer a serene, almost magical beauty. The skiers move in a single file, their breath pluming in the frigid air, the rhythmic swish of skis on snow the only sound breaking the profound silence of the wilderness. Dyatlov, ever the meticulous chronicler, continues to maintain his journal, noting the daily progress, the weather conditions, and the general mood of the group. His entries reflect a determined, yet cautious, approach to the expedition. The group also captures photographs, images of smiling faces, shared meals, and breathtaking landscapes, innocent snapshots of a journey yet untainted by tragedy. These visual records, developed weeks later, will provide a haunting glimpse into their final days. On January 29, 1959, the group continues their trek, navigating through increasingly challenging terrain. The weather begins to shift, bringing with it colder temperatures and more persistent snowfall. The forests grow denser, and the elevation gradually increases as they push deeper into the mountains. The physical demands of the journey become more pronounced, but the hikers, all experienced and fit, maintain a steady pace. Their training and preparation serve them well in these conditions. The journal entries from this period detail the daily routines of setting up camp, preparing meals, and enduring the biting cold. They speak of the camaraderie that binds them, the shared laughter around the campfire, and the quiet determination to reach their objective. The photos show them bundled in their winter gear, faces ruddy from the cold, a testament to their resilience. January 30, 1959, sees the group pushing further north, following the river Ospia. The terrain becomes even more arduous, with deeper snow and more frequent ascents. The wind picks up, adding another layer of challenge to their progress. Despite the increasing difficulties, the group maintains a good pace, their collective experience guiding them through the demanding landscape. Dyatlov's leadership remains firm, his decisions carefully considered, always prioritizing the safety and well-being of his team. The journal entries from this day indicate the growing intensity of the expedition, the physical toll it is beginning to take. Yet there is no hint of despair or insurmountable obstacles. Instead, the narrative is one of perseverance, of a group united in its purpose, steadily making its way towards the distant peaks. The photographs, though fewer now, still capture moments of shared humanity against the backdrop of an increasingly formidable wilderness. By January 31, 1959, the Dyatlov group has reached a crucial point in their journey. They establish a temporary camp in the valley of the Ospia River, nestled amongst the trees, offering some shelter from the relentless wind and cold. This camp serves a strategic purpose. It is here that they decide to create a *labaz*, a storage depot for extra food and equipment not needed for the final ascent. This practice is common in multi-day treks, allowing hikers to lighten their loads for the most challenging sections of their route and retrieve supplies on their return journey. The creation of the *labaz* is a time-consuming but essential task. They dig a snow pit, carefully covering their supplies to protect them from the elements and from scavenging animals. This careful planning underscores their intention to return, a clear indication that they anticipate completing their expedition and retracing their steps. The items left behind include heavier food provisions, some spare clothing, and perhaps some less critical tools. This decision reveals their calculated approach to the expedition, their foresight in managing resources and energy for the arduous climb ahead. From this *labaz* camp, the group plans their final push towards Odorn. The next day, February 1, 1959, is designated for the ascent of Kalat-Siakal, a mountain whose name in the Mansi language translates ominously to Dead Mountain. The path to Odorn requires them to traverse the eastern slope of Kalat-Siakal, making it a critical waypoint in their journey. The morning of February 1, 1959, dawns with a heavy, overcast sky. The temperature hovers around to -25°C, typical for the region in winter, but the wind, a constant presence in the exposed uplands, promises to make the climb particularly challenging. The group, now carrying lighter packs, breaks camp at the *labaz and begins their ascent. Their destination for the day is a campsite on the slopes of Kalat-Siakal, from which they intend to launch their final assault on Odorn. The terrain quickly becomes more exposed, the protective embrace of the forest giving way to windswept, treeless expanses. The snow is deep, often wind-packed and treacherous, requiring constant vigilance and effort. The visibility, though not entirely obscured, is limited by the low clouds and falling snow. As the day progresses, the group battles against the elements, the biting wind a relentless adversary. Their skis are essential for navigating the deep snow, but even with them, progress is slow and demanding. The upward climb is arduous, each step a testament to their physical and mental fortitude. The landscape around them is stark, a vast white wilderness stretching to the horizon, broken only by the occasional rock outcrop or stunted, snow-laden tree. By late afternoon, with daylight beginning to wane, the Dyatlov group reaches a point on the eastern slope of Kalat-Siakal. The wind howls across the exposed ridge, a mournful, relentless sound. The visibility is poor, and the conditions make further progress towards the summit of Odorn impractical and potentially dangerous in the fading light. They decide to set up their final camp here at the base of Kalat-Siakal, a decision driven by the harsh realities of the mountain environment. This last known camp, established on the evening of February 1, 1959, is a testament to their resilience and their commitment to the expedition. The tent is pitched on the exposed slope, offering minimal protection from the elements, but it is the best they can do under the circumstances. The wind whips around them, carrying fine snow particles that sting the skin. Inside the tent, a sense of weary accomplishment likely prevails as they prepare for a night in the extreme conditions, unaware of the profound shift in their destiny that the coming hours will bring. The last known photographs from the Dyatlov group, recovered weeks later, frame their final hours. A tent partially pitched against brutal wind, figures huddled against cold, the stark, unforgiving expanse of the mountain. These images, mundane in their composition, would later become artifacts of immense, tragic significance. The night of February 1st into February 2nd, 1959, unfolds with an eerie silence, broken only by the relentless roar of the wind. Inside the tent, the 9 hikers, Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolvatov, Rustam Slobodin, Georgy Krivonishenko, Yuri Doroshenko, Nikolai Thiboksbrignoles, and Semyon Zolotaryov, prepare for sleep, their bodies weary from the day's exertions. Temperatures plummet further, reaching extreme lows, and the wind continues to intensify, battering the fragile canvas shelter. The exact sequence of events that follows remains shrouded in mystery, a chilling void in the historical record. But what is certain is that sometime in the late hours of February 1st or the early hours of February 2nd, an unimaginable event forces the group to abandon their tent. Evidence discovered later paints a horrifying picture. The tent is cut open from the inside, a desperate, violent act of escape. Not one, but 2 large, deliberate slashes rip through the fabric, suggesting an urgent need to exit without using the main entrance, which would have been zipped shut against the elements. The hikers, many of them partially dressed, flee into the blizzard, leaving behind their coats, boots, and vital survival gear. Their flight is not a calm, organized retreat, but a panicked, desperate scramble for survival. Barefoot or in socks, some with only a single boot, they descend the slope of Khalat Syakhl, away from the perceived threat, whatever it may have been. The temperature outside is brutally cold, likely around to degrees Celsius, with a wind chill making it feel far colder, a lethal environment for anyone exposed without proper clothing. Their tracks, preserved briefly in the fresh snow before being obliterated by further snowfall, indicate a disorganized movement, a desperate, scattered flight rather than a cohesive group action. Some tracks suggest individuals stumbling, others crawling, all heading down towards the treeline, approximately 1.5 kilometers away, a desperate bid for shelter from the ferocious wind and lethal cold. This initial descent is the last collective action of the Dyatlov group, the moment their fate irrevocably diverges from a planned expedition to an unfolding catastrophe. The first bodies are discovered on February 26, 1959, a full 3 weeks after the incident, by a search party organized after the group failed to return to Vizhay by the expected date of February 12th. The initial search efforts, launched around February 20th, are hampered by severe weather and the vastness of the terrain. Yuri Yudin, the hiker who had turned back due to illness, plays a crucial role in guiding the searchers to the approximate location of the asterisk labas and their planned route. The search party, composed of students and instructors from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, local Mansi hunters, and military personnel, finally locates the abandoned tent on the eastern slope of Khalat Syakhl. The scene at the tent is chilling. It is partially collapsed, covered in snow, and appears to have been cut open from the inside. Inside, personal belongings, including boots, warm clothing, and even food, are found, meticulously arranged, suggesting a sudden, unplanned departure. The discovery immediately raises alarm bells. Experienced hikers would never abandon such vital gear in sub-zero temperatures unless under extreme duress. Following the faint traces in the snow leading away from the tent, the searchers descend towards the tree line, a small patch of sparse forest about 1.5 kilometers away. There, under a large cedar tree, they make the first grim discovery. The bodies of Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonishenko are found side by side, partially unclothed, their hands bruised and abraded, indicating a struggle or an attempt to climb the tree. Their clothes show signs of charring, suggesting a desperate attempt to build a fire or perhaps an exposure to intense heat. Doroshenko is found with only a shirt and underwear, Krivonishenko in similar attire, with one sock. The immediate area around the cedar tree shows evidence of a small, failed fire, with scattered branches and a few charred scraps of clothing. A short distance away, between the cedar tree and the tent, the body of Igor Dyatlov, the group's leader, is found. He is lying on his back, his head pointing towards the tent, as if attempting to return. He is more warmly dressed than Doroshenko and Krivonishenko, wearing a sweater, trousers, and a fur hat, but lacks boots. His hands are frozen in a defensive posture, and his face bears a calm, almost serene expression, in stark contrast to the horrific circumstances. His watch is stopped at 5:31. Further up the slope, closer to the tent, the searchers discover the body of Zinaida Kolmogorova. She is found about 850 meters from the cedar tree, lying face down in the snow, her body partially covered by a thin layer of snow. She too is dressed relatively warmly, wearing multiple layers but without boots. Her face and hands show signs of struggle, with abrasions and bruises, indicating she might have been crawling or struggling against the elements. A small amount of blood is found near her nose. The fifth body, that of Rustam Slobodin, is found even closer to the tent, about 480 meters from Kolmogorova. He is also found face down, partially buried in the snow. Slobodin is dressed in a sweater, trousers, and a hat, but also lacks boots. His autopsy reveals a significant skull fracture, a crack about 17 centimeters long, which is initially attributed to a fall or impact with a rock. However, the lack of external bruising on his head makes this explanation perplexing. Like the others, his body shows signs of extreme hypothermia. The initial examination of these 5 bodies, conducted on site and later more thoroughly in Ivdel, confirms severe hypothermia as the primary cause of death for Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, Slobodin, Doroshenko, and Krivonishenko. However, the circumstances surrounding their deaths, the torn tent, the partial undress, the desperate flight, and the unexplained injuries, immediately fuel speculation and raise profound questions. The medical examiners note the bluish-purple discoloration of their skin, characteristic of death from cold, and the paradoxical undressing phenomenon, where hypothermic individuals, in their final moments, sometimes remove clothing due to a sensation of intense heat. The discovery of the first 5 bodies intensifies the search for the remaining 4 members of the group. The focus shifts to the ravine deeper in the forest, near the cedar tree, where the terrain is more rugged and the snowdrifts are significantly deeper. The search efforts are arduous, prolonged by the harsh winter conditions and the challenging landscape. Weeks turn into months as the snow stubbornly refuses to melt. The hope of finding the remaining 4 alive dwindles with each passing day, replaced by the grim determination to recover their remains and piece together the tragic puzzle. Finally, on May 4, 1959, more than 3 months after the incident, as the spring thaw begins to reveal the secrets hidden beneath the snow, the remaining 4 bodies are discovered. They are found about 75 meters deeper into the ravine, approximately 4 meters under a thick layer of snow, near a small stream. The bodies of Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolvatov, Semyon Zolotaryov, and Nikolai Thiboksbrignoles are found in a small den-like structure they had apparently attempted to build from branches and snow, a desperate, final attempt at shelter. The condition of these 4 bodies is far more disturbing than the first 5. Lyudmila Dubinina is found kneeling against a rock, her face buried in the snow, her tongue, eyes, and part of her upper lip missing. Her ribs are fractured, a severe injury. Semyon Zolotaryov is found next to her, also with severe chest injuries, including fractured ribs. Nikolai Thiboksbrignoles has a major skull fracture, similar to Slobodin's, but far more extensive. Alexander Kolvatov also suffers from multiple traumatic injuries, including a broken nose and a dislocated shoulder. Crucially, some of these 4 are found wearing clothes stripped from the first 5 victims. Dubinina is wearing Krivonishenko's trousers, and Zolotaryov is wearing Dubinina's fur coat and hat. This act of repurposing clothing suggests a desperate attempt to survive and stay warm, a grim testament to the horrific conditions they endured. The severe internal injuries sustained by Dubinina, Zolotaryov, and Thiboksbrignoles, fractured ribs, massive skull trauma, are not consistent with hypothermia alone. These injuries are akin to those suffered in a high-impact car crash, or from being struck by a powerful blast wave, yet there is no external evidence of such an event, no signs of struggle or blunt force trauma on the surrounding snow or trees. The missing eyes and tongue of Dubinina are initially attributed to scavenging animals, particularly in the watery environment of the melting stream. However, the extent and nature of the soft tissue damage remain unsettling. The autopsies on these 4 bodies conclude that the cause of death is traumatic injuries rather than hypothermia, although exposure to the elements undoubtedly contributed to their demise. The official investigation, led by prosecutor Lev Ivanov, struggles to reconcile the disparate findings. The torn tent, the partial undressing, the scattered bodies, and especially the inexplicable, severe internal injuries on 3 of the last 4 victims, defy conventional explanations. The lack of any witnesses, the pristine snow around the tent, and the absence of any signs of an avalanche or a struggle with other humans further deepen the enigma. In May 1959, after months of investigation, the official conclusion is released. The Dyatlov group members died as a result of an unknown compelling natural force. The case is closed, and the files are classified, effectively sealing the mystery for decades. This ambiguous and unsatisfying conclusion only serves to fuel decades of speculation. Theories ranging from military experiments to infrasound, from extraterrestrial encounters to a rare form of snow avalanche. The phrase, compelling natural force, becomes a haunting epitaph for the 9 lost hikers, a testament to the inexplicable horror that befell them on Khalat Syakhl. The official conclusion, delivered in May 1959, offers no true solace, no clear understanding for the families or the public. The phrase, unknown compelling natural force, reverberates with an unsettling ambiguity, a bureaucratic dismissal of a profound human tragedy. The case files, once closed, are then classified, effectively sealing the mystery behind a wall of state secrecy. This act of classification, rather than quelling public concern, instead ignites a persistent, smoldering curiosity that will endure for decades. For years, the Dyatlov Pass Incident largely remains a whispered legend, a chilling cautionary tale among hikers and mountaineers in the Soviet Union. The official narrative, devoid of specific answers, leaves a vacuum that is quickly filled by a multitude of unofficial theories. These range from the plausible to the fantastical, each attempting to grapple with the inexplicable horror of Khalat Syakhl. Some whisper of secret military tests, of experimental weapons causing the unidentifiable trauma and strange orange discoloration reported on some victims' skin and clothing. The remote location, the suddenness of the event, and the subsequent secrecy fuel these suspicions. Others suggest encounters with indigenous Mansi hunters, a conflict over sacred lands, though no evidence of human struggle or other people is ever found. The Mansi themselves are deeply superstitious about the mountain, calling it Kalet Siakal or Dead Mountain, a name that seems to gain new, grim significance. As the years turn into decades, the incident transcends mere local folklore and begins to capture the imagination of a wider public, both within Russia and internationally. The lack of concrete answers from the Soviet authorities only serves to deepen the enigma and fuel persistent speculation. The official silence becomes a breeding ground for increasingly elaborate theories. One prominent theory involves infrasound, low-frequency sound waves inaudible to the human ear, but capable of inducing feelings of dread, panic, and even physical discomfort, leading to irrational behavior and a desperate flight from a perceived, but non-existent, threat. Proponents of this theory suggest that specific wind conditions interacting with the topography of Kalet Siakal could have generated such waves, driving the hikers from their tent in a state of terror. Another enduring theory points to a rare type of avalanche, a slab avalanche, which could have been triggered above the tent. While the slope is not considered steep enough for a typical avalanche, proponents argue that an unusual snow formation, a snow slab, could have broken off and slid down, partially burying or impacting the tent. The injuries, particularly the chest and skull fractures, could then be attributed to the immense force of compressed snow. However, this theory struggles to explain the methodical cutting of the tent from the inside, the orderly arrangement of some personal items, and the lack of visible signs of a large snow mass or debris field around the tent site immediately after the incident. Furthermore, experienced hikers like the Dyatlov group would likely have known how to react to an avalanche, and the tracks leading away from the tent do not suggest people digging themselves out from under snow. The 1980s and 1990s, with the loosening of Soviet control and the eventual collapse of the USSR, bring a new wave of interest and a slight opening of previously classified archives. While much remains hidden, small fragments of information begin to surface, further fueling public fascination. Journalists and independent researchers, armed with newly accessible technologies and a newfound freedom of inquiry, start to meticulously pore over the limited available documents, interview surviving relatives, and even visit the remote pass itself. The internet, in its nascent stages, becomes a powerful tool for connecting enthusiasts and sharing information, turning the Dyatlov Pass Incident into one of the world's most enduring true crime mysteries. By the early 2000s, the Dyatlov Pass Incident has achieved cult status. Online forums buzz with discussions, dedicated websites meticulously catalog every known fact and theory, and documentaries begin to explore the various explanations. The lack of a definitive, satisfying answer continues to be the central driving force behind this enduring fascination. Each new piece of information, no matter how small, is scrutinized and debated. The radiation found on some of the victims' clothing, initially dismissed as insignificant, becomes a source of renewed speculation, leading some to revisit the military experiment theory. The unusual orange-tan discoloration of the skin of some bodies and the prematurely gray hair observed on others are also cited as potential evidence of an unknown external influence. The families of the victims, while initially silenced by the Soviet state, begin to find their voices. They express deep dissatisfaction with the official, compelling natural force conclusion, feeling that their loved ones' deaths were never truly explained or properly investigated. They carry the burden of uncertainty, a grief compounded by the unanswered questions surrounding the final moments of Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Rustem Slobodin, Yuri Doroshenko, Georgy Krivonishenko, Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolvatov, Semyon Zolotaryov, and Nikolai Thiboksberg-Knowles. Their persistent calls for clarity, combined with the growing international interest, put increasing pressure on Russian authorities. In 2014, a feature film, Devil's Pass, also known as the Dyatlov Pass Incident, is released, bringing the story to an even wider global audience. While fictionalized, it reignites public discussion and introduces the mystery to a new generation. The film's popularity underscores the enduring grip the incident holds on the public imagination, demonstrating that despite the passage of more than half a century, the questions surrounding the 9 hikers' deaths remain as potent as ever. Academic researchers, too, begin to contribute to the analysis, applying scientific principles to re-examine the available evidence. Meteorologists analyze historical weather data for February 1959, seeking to understand the precise conditions on Khalat Syakhl. Forensic experts re-evaluate the autopsy reports, scrutinizing the nature of the injuries and considering alternative explanations beyond the initial, limited scope of the 1959 investigation. Geologists study the terrain for potential seismic activity or unusual snow formations. The collective effort of these independent investigations, though often fragmented and based on incomplete information, slowly builds a more comprehensive picture of the environment and the potential forces at play. The sheer volume of theories, however, sometimes obscures the core facts. From Yeti attacks to UFOs, from secret government weapon tests to a deadly encounter with a rogue animal, the imaginative scope of explanations knows no bounds. Yet, beneath the sensationalism, a persistent human desire for truth endures. The memory of the 9 young, adventurous students, their lives cut tragically short, demands a more satisfying explanation than a vague, natural force. The pressure continues to mount steadily throughout the 2010s. Online petitions gather thousands of signatures. Social media campaigns amplify the calls for a new investigation, and news outlets periodically revisit the story, highlighting the unresolved aspects. The families of the victims, now elderly, continue their tireless advocacy, their voices carrying the weight of decades of unanswered grief. Their unwavering dedication serves as a poignant reminder that this is not merely an academic puzzle or a macabre curiosity, but a profound human tragedy that has never truly found closure. The Russian Prosecutor General's office, recognizing the immense public interest and the lingering questions, finally announces a reopening of the investigation in February 2019. This decision, made 60 years after the original inquiry, marks a significant turning point. It is an acknowledgement that the initial conclusion was insufficient, that the classification of the case files only deepened suspicion, and that modern scientific and forensic tools might offer new insights into the enduring mystery of the Dyatlov Pass incident. The move is met with a mix of cautious optimism and skepticism. While many welcome the renewed effort, others remain wary, questioning whether a new investigation, so many decades later, can truly uncover what was lost or obscured in 1959. The hope is that, finally, a definitive and scientifically sound explanation might emerge, bringing a measure of peace to the families and closing one of the 20th century's most perplexing cold cases. The Prosecutor General's office, specifically Andrei Kuryakov, the deputy head of the Ural Federal District Department, outlines the scope of the renewed inquiry in February 2019. He states unequivocally that the investigation will focus exclusively on natural phenomena, dismissing any notions of criminal involvement, military tests, or extraterrestrial encounters. This narrowed focus immediately draws criticism from some independent researchers and family members who believe all possibilities should be explored. Kuryakov explains that the primary goal is to provide a clear, scientifically backed explanation for the deaths, one that can finally bring closure. 3 main natural theories are to be rigorously examined: an avalanche, a snow slab, or a hurricane-force wind. To support their investigation, the Russian authorities bring in a team of experts, including forensic scientists, meteorologists, and even a representative from the Russian Geographical Society. They announce plans to conduct a new field expedition to Dyatlov Pass in the summer of 2019, aiming to recreate the conditions and gather fresh data. This expedition, occurring 60 years after the original tragedy, is seen as a crucial step in testing the various natural hypotheses. The summer 2019 expedition to Dyatlov Pass involves a team of 9 experts, mirroring the number of lost hikers. They meticulously examine the terrain, studying snow patterns, potential avalanche zones, and wind corridors. Using modern equipment, they analyze historical weather data for February 1959, striving to understand the precise meteorological conditions that night. They also attempt to reconstruct the tent's placement and the hikers' movements, seeking to identify any environmental factors that could have led to their tragic flight. One of the central focuses of the renewed investigation is the avalanche theory. While the original 1959 inquiry largely dismissed it due to the gentle slope, the new team considers the possibility of a slab avalanche, a specific type of avalanche where a cohesive layer of snow breaks off and slides. This type of avalanche can occur on relatively shallow slopes and can be difficult to detect after the fact. Experts analyze the incline of Khalat Syakhl, the historical snowpack, and the potential for such a phenomenon. They consider how a slab avalanche, even a small one, could have impacted the tent, causing the initial injuries and forcing the hikers to flee into the extreme cold. Another theory revisited is the wind slab or cornice collapse. This involves a large overhang of snow, built up by strong winds, breaking off and falling onto the tent. The force of such a collapse could explain some of the blunt trauma injuries, particularly the severe chest and head wounds sustained by Dubinina, Zolotaryov, and Thiboksburg Knolls. The intense winds prevalent in the region are a known factor, and the specific topography of the pass could have facilitated the formation of such dangerous snow structures. The investigation also considers the impact of extreme weather conditions, specifically hurricane-force winds combined with paradoxical undressing, a phenomenon known as paradoxical stripping in hypothermia cases. In severe hypothermia, individuals can experience disorientation and a sensation of overheating, leading them to remove their clothing, even in freezing temperatures. The brutal cold of Khalat Syakhl, coupled with potential high winds, could have rapidly incapacitated the hikers, leading to irrational decisions and their eventual demise. Despite the renewed efforts and the scientific approach, the 2019 investigation still faces significant challenges. The passage of 6 decades means that many crucial pieces of evidence are no longer available or have been irrevocably altered by time and subsequent visitors to the pass. Eyewitnesses from 1959 are now elderly, and their memories may be faded or influenced by subsequent theories. The exact condition of the snowpack and the precise wind patterns on that fateful night remain difficult to definitively reconstruct. As the Russian investigation progresses, independent researchers and enthusiasts continue their own parallel inquiries, often clashing with the official narrative. Many argue that the exclusive focus on natural causes is too narrow, intentionally overlooking potential human involvement or other unexplained phenomena. They point to the persistent anomalies, the radiation, the unusual skin discoloration, the missing eyes and tongue on Dubinina, and the sheer brutality of some injuries, as evidence that a simple natural explanation might not suffice. In July 2020, after more than a year of renewed investigation, the Russian Prosecutor General's office announces its official conclusion. Andrei Kuryakov, leading the investigation, states that the most probable cause of death was an avalanche, specifically a slab avalanche, combined with extreme cold. He explains that a small slab of snow, dislodged by the wind or the hiker's own actions on the slope above the tent, likely slid down and partially buried or impacted the tent. This initial event would have forced the hikers to cut their way out of the tent in a state of panic, fleeing into the bitter cold without adequate clothing. The official report details how the hikers, disoriented and injured, then descended towards the tree line, seeking shelter. The severe injuries, particularly the internal trauma, are attributed to the immense pressure of the compacted snow from the avalanche. The subsequent deaths are blamed on hypothermia, exacerbated by the lack of proper clothing and the extreme temperatures, which reportedly dropped to between -40 and degrees Celsius that night. The paradoxical undressing is also cited as a contributing factor to the rapid onset of hypothermia. This new official conclusion, while offering a specific natural explanation, does not fully satisfy everyone. Critics immediately point out several inconsistencies and unanswered questions. The relatively gentle slope of Khalat Syakhl still makes a typical avalanche seem unlikely to many. The lack of visible avalanche debris or a clear avalanche path in the photos from 1959 remains a significant hurdle. Furthermore, the methodical cutting of the tent from the inside, the organized placement of some items, and the apparent lack of immediate panic suggested by some of the evidence seem to contradict the sudden, overwhelming force of an avalanche. The severe internal injuries, particularly the fractured ribs and skull, are also debated. While an avalanche can cause such trauma, some forensic experts argue that the specific nature of the injuries, especially the lack of external bruising on some victims, remains puzzling for a simple crush injury. The missing eyes and tongue of Lyudmila Dubinina, though attributed to post-mortem scavenging by animals in the official report, continue to fuel darker suspicions for many. Despite the renewed official conclusion in 2020, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains a subject of intense debate and fascination. The Russian authorities attempt to provide a definitive answer, while lauded by some for its scientific rigor, is seen by others as an incomplete or even misleading explanation. The inherent ambiguities of the case, coupled with decades of secrecy and conflicting theories, have created a narrative so complex that a single, simple answer struggles to gain universal acceptance. The incident's impact on mountaineering safety, while perhaps not immediately obvious, has been profound in its subtle ways. It serves as a grim reminder of the unpredictable and unforgiving nature of the wilderness, even for experienced adventurers. The story has fostered a greater appreciation for meticulous planning, redundant safety measures, and the importance of understanding microclimates and specific terrain risks, especially in remote and extreme environments. For many who follow the story, it underscores the critical need for clear, transparent investigations into unexplained tragedies, demonstrating how official secrecy can perpetuate doubt and speculation for generations. Today, Dyatlov Pass is both a pilgrimage site for those fascinated by the mystery and a somber memorial to the 9 lost hikers. A small monument stands on the pass, bearing their names, a stark reminder of the lives cut short. The mountain, Khalat Syakhl, or Dead Mountain, continues to hold its secrets, whispering tales of an unknown compelling natural force, or perhaps something more sinister, forever etched into the collective consciousness as one of the most enigmatic and enduring unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. The legacy of the Dyatlov Pass incident is not just a tale of 9 hikers lost to the elements, but a testament to humanity's enduring quest for answers in the face of the inexplicable.